The first thing Ethan Cole noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind that settled over the prairie at dusk, but a sharp silence that felt wrong, like the land itself was holding its breath. His horse slowed on the grassy slope, hooves pressing softly into dry earth. Ethan narrowed his eyes. He had lived in Arizona long enough to know that when the land goes quiet, something is watching. Then he saw her. She was suspended from the thick branch of an ancient tree hanging above the ground, by rough ropes tied to her wrists and ankles. Her tall body was stretched tight beneath the open sky, unmoving except for the slow rise and fall of her chest. Torn leather clothing clung to her frame, and dark marks crossed her skin, signs of pain meant to send a message. Dried blood stained her arms and side, and her strength was clearly fading. But her face told a different story. Her eyes were open, sharp and unbroken. Ethan's hand tightened on the reins. He did not move at first. He only stared, his heart pounding louder than the wind in his ears. The sound of distant hooves echoed far away. Ethan stopped completely. One rule had kept him alive on this land for years: do not get involved. Do not step into other people's business, especially when it involved the Apache. Out here, one wrong choice could follow you for the rest of your life. Still, his eyes would not turn away. As if she sensed him, the woman slowly lifted her head. Her gaze met his. There was no pleading in her eyes, no begging. Only pride and something else, a warning. Her lips moved. "Do not look that way," she whispered, her voice thin and weak. "Please." Ethan froze, not because of her wounds, but because he understood what he was seeing. This was not punishment. This was cruelty meant to destroy dignity, meant to leave someone alive just long enough to break them. He glanced around. No sign of a tribe, no war horses. Only boot prints scattered across the dirt. Heavy prints, careless, not Apache. They told a clear story without words. This was a manhunt. The woman's body trembled as the rope scraped against her wrists. The sound was faint, but enough. Ethan knew if he waited any longer, she would not survive. "Do not," she whispered again, weaker this time. "If you cut me down, they will come back." Ethan swallowed hard. He had heard those words once before, years ago, spoken by his wife during a storm when help came too late. The same calm acceptance, the same fear hidden beneath strength. "Not today," he said, quietly, almost to himself. He dismounted and stepped forward. Each step felt heavy, as if the past was pulling at his boots. He took out his knife. It was not a weapon, just a tool he used every day on the ranch. Still, his hand shook slightly as he pressed the blade against the rope. "Hold on," he murmured. The rope frayed, then snapped. The woman fell, and Ethan caught her just in time. The force knocked him to his knees. Pain shot through his legs. But he did not let go. She was heavier than she looked, not just with muscle, but with suffering. She gasped, one arm clutching his shirt as if afraid the ground would disappear again. Ethan lowered his head, shielding her from the sun. "I am taking you out of here," he said firmly. She looked at him closely now. Her fire was dim, but not gone. "Are you ready to pay the price for that?" she asked. Ethan did not answer. A key lifted her into his arms and turned away from the tree. Whatever the price was, he had already chosen. She woke later that afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the cracks of a wooden wall, casting long lines across the floor. The smell of herbs and dry wood filled the air. She tried to move, then stopped. As pain reminded her where she was, the ropes were gone. Her wounds were cleaned and wrapped. She turned her head. Ethan Cole sat nearby, sharpening his knife. He did not look at her. He did not ask questions. He waited. "You should not have saved." "Me?" she said softly. Ethan glanced up. "Too late for that now. Silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, just heavy. "My name is Ayanna," she said after a long moment. Ethan nodded once. He waited. She took a slow breath and spoke with the steady voice of someone used to carrying pain. She told him about Victor Hale, a man who came pretending to be a merchant, about false papers and promises, about how he wanted land rich with silver, and how her people refused. "So he chose me," she said, "'cause I was weak, because I would not bow." She spoke of beatings meant to humiliate, of being left hanging under the sun, not to die, but to be broken. Ethan listened, his jaw tight, his hands clenched. He had seen the dark side of the frontier before, but turning people into property twisted something deep inside him. "He will. Come back," Ayanna said. "And if he finds me here, you will be blamed." Ethan stood and opened an old drawer. He placed a stack of papers on the table. "I have seen his kind before," he said. Forged contracts, false stamps. Before Ayanna could respond, the wind outside shifted. Somewhere far off, hooves moved slowly, carefully. Ayanna's head tilted. Her eyes sharpened. "They are hunting," she said. "We do not have much time." Ethan nodded. "Then we stop running." They looked at each other, not as rescuer and rescued, but as two people trapped by the same danger. A loud knock shattered the quiet. "Cole," a rough voice called. "Open up." Ethan reached for his rifle. Ayanna straightened, ignoring the pain. "3 men," she said calmly. "Not hunters, enforcers." The knock came again, harder this time. Ethan met her gaze. She gave a small nod. The door burst open, and the storm finally arrived. The door slammed against the wall as the men pushed inside, bringing with them the sharp smell of sweat and whiskey. Dust lifted from the floorboards under their boots. One stayed outside, half hidden by the doorframe, his hand resting on his gun like it belonged there. The other 2 spread out, eyes moving fast, greedy, searching. "Where is she?" the lead man said. His voice was rough, practiced. "You know who we mean." Ethan stepped forward before Ayanna could speak. His body placed itself between her and them without thought. "There is no one like that here," he said evenly. The punch came fast. Fist slammed into Ethan's jaw, snapping his head to the side. He staggered back into the table, wood cracking under the impact. The rifle slipped from his hands and clattered to the floor. The second man lunged, trying to pin Ethan down. Chairs scraped, the lamp shook, light jumping across the walls. Ethan grunted as a knee drove into his ribs. Pain burned, sharp and deep, but he held on, fingers digging into cloth. Ayanna moved. She did not shout. She did not hesitate. She turned and threw her full weight into the man outside the door. He was not ready. His back hit the ground hard, air rushing out of him in a broken sound. Before he could recover, Ayanna grabbed his wrist and twisted. Bone shifted. He screamed inside. Ethan shoved upward, forcing the man off balance. They crashed into the wall, fists swinging, breath harsh. Ethan tasted blood but kept moving. He reached for the gun on the floor, fingers brushing metal. The third man rushed in. Ayanna was already there. She struck low and fast, a clean blow to the back of his head. It dropped without a sound. She turned, eyes cold, and caught the first man as he tried to crawl away. So you yanked him back by the collar and pressed him to the ground. "Talk," she said. Fear cracked him open. "Hale," he blurted. "Hale wants you. Said if we don't bring you back, he'll burn this place down." Ethan stood beside her now, breathing hard. "What else?" He said, "Blame it on the Apache." The man cried. "Town will believe." Ayanna released him. He slumped, unconscious. Outside, the wind carried the fading sound of horses moving away, not fleeing. Reporting, they will return. Ayanna said quietly. Ethan looked around the wrecked cabin, then out the window, where the prairie darkened toward night. Then we don't wait. Night came fast. The oil lamp flickered as wind slipped through the cracks. The three men were tied outside near the stable, far enough to be heard if they moved. Ethan checked the knots twice. He knew better than to trust fear alone. Inside, Ayanna sat upright, her posture straight despite the pain. The bandage on her arm had darkened again. She did not complain. "Hale will use the law," she said. "He does not need guns, only paper." Ethan nodded. "He will say you belong to him. That I'm hiding you?" Ayanna met his eyes. "Then you lose everything." Ethan crossed the room and opened an old chest. Papers lay inside, yellowed with time. Deeds, records. At the bottom, a blank marriage license. He lifted it slowly and placed it on the table. "There is a way," he said. "Legal." Ayanna looked at the paper. Silence filled the room. "We marry," Ethan said. "By town law, no one can call you property after that." Ayanna did not answer at once. She studied. Her hands, scarred, strong, once bound. The lamp hissed softly. "And if I say no?" she asked. "Then I help you run," Ethan replied. "But they will hunt you." Outside, an owl called, lonely and sharp. Ayanna stood. Her shadow stretched across the paper. "Freedom means choosing," she said, "and I choose never to wear chains again." She picked up the pen. They signed without ceremony. No smile, no promise. Only names written clean and firm. Ethan folded the paper and tucked it away. "We leave at dawn," he said. Morning came pale and quiet. Mist lay low over the prairie as the wagon rolled forward. Three bound men lay in the back, gagged eyes wide. Ethan held the reins, gaze fixed on the road to town. Ayanna sat beside him, shoulders squared. The narrow rock pass appeared ahead, the land tightening like a fist. Two riders stepped out from behind cactus and stone. Badges caught the light. One raised a hand. "Routine check," he said. His eyes slid to Ayanna. "We're looking for an Apache fugitive." Ethan kept his voice calm. "We're bringing a witness into town." The man smiled thinly. "A witness?" "Or merchandise." Ayanna stepped down from the wagon. The air seemed to pull back around her. "I am his wife," she said clearly. The lawman laughed and asked for papers. Ethan handed over the license. The man read it, frowned, then dropped it into the dust. "This means nothing if there's a prior claim." He shoved Ayanna back. Ethan moved instantly, placing himself between them. "That's enough." A rifle butt struck his side. He staggered but did not fall. Then a sound rose from the ridge. Not loud. Certain dot figures appeared on horseback. Apache warriors rode in a quiet line, faces calm, eyes steady. No weapons raised, only presence. The lawman swallowed. "Call for help," he muttered. Ayanna lifted her head. "We are not here for war," she said. "We are here for a way forward." One warrior stepped down and planted his spear into the ground. Protection, not threat. Ethan picked up the paper and brushed off the dust. "We're moving on," he said. "If you stop us, do it in front of witnesses." The road opened. The wagon moved forward. They did not look back by the time the town came into view. The sun was high and the square was crowded. Word had traveled faster than wheels. Eyes followed them as they stopped. Whispers spread. "Victor." Hale stepped onto the porch of the registrar's office, coat pressed. Smile sharp. "I am here to reclaim my property," he announced. Ethan did not argue. He raised his hand. The bound men were dragged forward. One broke, voice shaking. Fake papers, forged seals. The hanging was his order. The crowd stirred. Ayanna stepped forward. The noise fell away. "Let the law speak," she said. Ethan held the license high. "By law, she is my wife." Hale backed away, eyes searching for help that did not come. Another man shouted. He paid the deputies. He framed the Apache. Hale turned to run. Ethan caught him. They hit the ground hard. "Oh, a clean strike." Ethan pinned him down. "It's over," Ethan said. Handcuffs clicked. The square exhaled. Ayanna stood still, calm, whole. The chains were gone, but the future had not yet spoken. The town square stayed quiet longer than anyone expected. The sound of metal cuffs echoed once more as Victor Hale was pulled to his feet. His clean coat was dusty now, his confidence cracked. The lawmen who had stood beside him earlier avoided his eyes. The crowd shifted, whispering, stepping back, as if the truth carried weight of its own. Ayanna stood straight at the center of it all. Her wounds were still there. The marks had not faded. But she did not hide them. She let the light touch her skin. Let the town see what had been done in the name of paper and lies. A town official stepped forward, clearing his throat. He read from the statements taken from the bound men. Forged contracts, paid threats, false claims of ownership. Each word fell heavy into the open air. At this time, the man said carefully, "There is no lawful claim over this woman." Ayanna lifted her chin. "She is free," the official finished. A breath moved through the crowd. Not applause. Something quieter. Acceptance. The Apache warriors stood at the edge of the square, still and watchful. One by one, they touched their chests in silent respect. Then they turned their horses and rode away. No celebration. No demand. They had seen enough. Ethan watched them go. Only then did he realize how tense his body had been. His hands slowly unclenched. Victor Hale was dragged toward the jail. He did not look back. The crowd began to thin. People carried the story with them, already shaping it into something that would be repeated in kitchens and saloons for years. A rancher who did not look away. A woman who refused to be owned. Ayan stood beside Ethan as the sun shifted west. The danger had passed, but the question remained. "You can return to your people," Ethan said quietly. "No one will stop you." Ayanna looked at the road leading out of town. Then at the land beyond it. Her face held no anger. Only thought. "No," she said, "and I choose to stay." They left Tucson as the sky warmed into gold. No wagon full of prisoners now, no chase behind them. Just the road stretching forward. When the ranch came back into view, Ethan slowed. He reached into his coat and touched the folded paper without. "If you want it gone, we can burn it." Ayanna stopped him with a gentle hand on his arm. "Not for the paper," she said. "If I stand beside you, it is by choice, not law." Ethan nodded. That was enough. Night settled quietly over the ranch. The porch fire crackled low. Ayanna unwrapped the bandages, letting the cool air touch skin that had known too much heat. The prairie spoke instead. Wind, distant calls. Peace returning to a place that had known violence. "You saw me at my worst," Ayanna said at last. Ethan stared into the fire. "I only did what was right." She smiled. Slow, real. "Then let us begin with that." The fire burned down too. And on a stretch of desert that once held ropes in silence, two people began again. Not as savior and saved. Not as owner and owned. But as equals, choosing dignity over fear and freedom over turning away.